The deep space communication array hummed with an electric anticipation that seemed to vibrate through the very metal of the Xylaxian flagship. Admiral Krelax adjusted the neural amplifiers connected to his cranial ridges, each movement calculated and precise. Generations of military conquest had prepared the Xylaxian Imperium for this moment. First contact with yet another civilization destined for subjugation. Outside the command vessel's crystalline viewports, the blue planet called Earth hung like a fragile marble against the infinite darkness. Centuries of long-range scans had painted a seemingly predictable picture. A young species, technologically primitive, clustered on a single planetary surface. The preliminary reports suggested a fractured civilization, riddled with internal conflicts, ripe for immediate integration. Transmission sequence initiating, announced Senior Communications Specialist Fornak, his voice a clinical monotone that reflected the Imperium's centuries-old communication protocols. The message was a masterpiece of calculated intimidation, precisely 2,749 characters long. It detailed the Imperium's unquestionable galactic dominance. Each word was mathematically constructed to invoke maximum psychological submission. Translation matrices were calibrated to convey absolute authority, leaving no room for negotiation or resistance. On Earth, the message arrived simultaneously across multiple communication networks. In the Pentagon's underground communication center, a diverse team of linguists, military strategists, and communication experts gathered around holographic displays. Colonel Rebecca Hartley, head of the First Contact Response Team, leaned forward with a mixture of professional composure and barely contained curiosity. "It's almost adorable," muttered Dr. James Liu, the lead linguist, his fingers dancing across translation interfaces. "They think they're being intimidating." The Xylaxian transmission spoke of absolute power. It described how 200 sentient species had already fallen before the Imperium's might. Each conquered civilization was presented as a statistical footnote, a cold accounting of submission. The message outlined precise territorial claims, economic restructuring protocols, and the complete dismantling of human governmental structures. What the Xylaxians did not understand was the fundamental nature of human communication, particularly human humor. In comedy clubs across New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, stand-up comedians were already workshopping alien invasion jokes. Social media platforms exploded with meme generators creating increasingly absurd responses. The global human network, often divided by politics and culture, found unexpected unity in the face of this cosmic threat. Rebecca Hartley watched the incoming transmission with a growing smile. Years of military training and diplomatic experience had prepared her for many scenarios, but this was different. The Xylaxian message was so seriously constructed, so mathematically precise, that it became comedy in its own right. "They're basically reading us a corporate merger proposal," she said, turning to the team. "But they think it's a declaration of absolute dominance." Dr. Liu's translation algorithms worked overtime. Each word of the Xylaxian message was a perfectly constructed piece of bureaucratic language, which, to human ears, sounded like an elaborate corporate takeover memo written by someone who had never experienced actual human interaction. In comedy clubs, the first jokes were already forming. Comedians began crafting routines about alien bureaucrats who spoke like middle management consultants. Memes compared the invasion announcement to terrible job performance reviews. The global human response was transforming a potential moment of terror into an opportunity for collective laughter. The Xylaxian communication array continued broadcasting, completely unaware that its message of terror was being systematically dismantled through humor. "They have no idea," Rebecca muttered, watching real-time response metrics. Millions of humans were simultaneously processing the potential end of human civilization by making jokes about it. Senior Communications Specialist Fornak would later review the human response and find no corresponding threat assessment in any known galactic database. The human reaction defied every known first contact protocol. It was not submission. It was not resistance. It was something entirely new. It was laughter. Pure, unfiltered, multi-layered human laughter that would soon become the most sophisticated psychological weapon in galactic history. The Zylaxian High Command assembled in their primary strategy chamber, a geometric marvel of crystalline interfaces and neural-linked computational systems. Admiral Krelak stood at the central projection, his multiple sensory appendages twitching with increasing agitation. "Analyze," he commanded, his voice a low resonant frequency that vibrated through the chamber's molecular structure. Senior Communications Specialist Vornak's preliminary report scrolled across the holographic displays. Each line of data became increasingly perplexing. The human response defied every known communication protocol in the galactic archives. What should have been a moment of absolute submission had transformed into something entirely incomprehensible. Memes, jokes, endless streams of comedic content. The linguistic algorithms went into overdrive. Zylaxian computational systems, designed to process billions of communication variations, began to overheat. Each attempt to decode the human response revealed layers of complexity that seemed to multiply exponentially. On Earth, the comedy was just beginning. Emily Thompson stood on the stage of the Manhattan Comedy Underground, her microphone catching the electric anticipation of a packed house. The invasion announcement had become her newest comedy special, a real-time deconstruction of alien bureaucratic language. "Have you seen their invasion message?" she asked, her timing perfect. It reads like a middle management performance review from hell. "Dear humanity, you're being acquired. Please submit all cultural assets by Tuesday." The audience erupted in laughter. Meanwhile, in the Pentagon's First Contact Response Center, Dr. James Liu continued his linguistic analysis. Each Zylaxian communication was a mathematical marvel, precisely constructed sentences that were supposed to invoke terror. To human ears, they sounded like an overly elaborate corporate merger proposal. "They've conquered 200 species," Liu muttered to Colonel Rebecca Hartley, "and they've never encountered a species that responds to intimidation with comedy." Global communication networks transformed the potential apocalypse into a collaborative comedy event. Meme generators worked overtime. Social media platforms hosted real-time comedy competitions. #alien invasion jokes became the top trending topic globally, with millions participating in a collective comedic deconstruction of the invasion threat. Back on the Zylaxian flagship, the analysis became increasingly bizarre. Their most advanced translation matrices struggled to categorize human communication. Was this resistance, submission, a form of psychological warfare? No existing protocol could explain it. In Silicon Valley, startup founders and comedy writers formed impromptu teams. They began developing alien invasion comedy simulators, interactive platforms that turned potential galactic destruction into elaborate joke generation systems. Virtual reality developers created immersive experiences where users could craft the most cutting comedy responses to alien threats. Vornak's computational systems detected something unprecedented. The humans weren't just making jokes. They were systematically analyzing the invasion announcement, breaking it down into comedic components, transforming terror into performance art. One viral video featured a stand-up comedian delivering the entire Zylaxian invasion announcement as a corporate training seminar. Another transformed the message into a dramatic reading, complete with exaggerated business consultant voices. Each iteration became more absurd, more complex. "They're not afraid," Vornak reported to Admiral Krelak, his voice a mixture of confusion and emerging respect. "They're analyzing, deconstructing, transforming." The Zylaxian High Command watched in growing bewilderment as millions of humans participated in what could only be described as a global comedy workshop. Entire comedy clubs hosted alien invasion night events. Professional comedians competed to create the most elaborate, most cutting invasion jokes. Emily Thompson's comedy special, Laughing at the End of the World, broke all streaming records. Her routine dismantled the Zylaxians' intimidating transmission piece by piece, revealing the ridiculous undertones of their supposedly serious declaration. "Imagine," She told her audience, an alien civilization so advanced they can travel faster than light, but they communicate like a regional sales manager with a PowerPoint addiction. The laughter was global, unprecedented, a form of communication that the Zalaxian Imperium had never encountered. Colonel Rebecca Hartley watched the developing situation with a mixture of professional analysis and barely contained amusement. Years of military training had prepared her for many scenarios, but this was different. Humanity was transforming a potential moment of absolute terror into a collective comedy experience. The Zalaxian invasion announcement had become something else entirely. A joke. A global, multi-layered, continuously evolving joke. The global response to the alien invasion threat evolved into something far more complex than simple comedy. What began as jokes transformed into a sophisticated psychological warfare strategy that the Zalaxian Imperium could never have anticipated. Michael Rodriguez sat in a converted warehouse in Silicon Valley, surrounded by screens displaying real-time global communication patterns. As the lead strategist for humanity's unconventional response, he watched a phenomenon unlike any previous first-contact scenario unfold. It's not just humor, he explained to his team of psychologists, linguists, and comedians. It's a collective psychological defense mechanism. The Zalaxian intelligence reports began to read like fever dreams. Humans weren't just laughing. They were analyzing, deconstructing, and reconstructing the invasion threat as a form of entertainment. Military briefings that were meant to be terrifying became comedy specials. Each serious alien communication was immediately transformed into a global inside joke. Across social media platforms, a new form of collaborative resistance emerged. Users began creating increasingly elaborate response scenarios. Meme generators worked overtime, producing content that simultaneously mocked the alien threat and analyzed its psychological implications. One viral trend involved translating the Zalaxian invasion announcement into progressively more absurd communication formats. Corporate memo, romantic breakup letter, children's bedtime story. Each iteration became a more complex deconstruction of the original message. In comedy clubs around the world, a new genre of performance emerged. Comedians began developing invasion response routines that were part comedy, part psychological analysis, part performance art. Emily Thompson's latest special, Cosmic Performance Review, broke all streaming records. Imagine, she told a packed audience, receiving a Galactic performance review where the manager is literally trying to conquer your entire species. The Zalaxian linguistic algorithms went into complete breakdown. Their most advanced computational systems struggled to process the multi-layered human communication. Each attempt to understand human response only revealed more complexity, more absurdity. Admiral Krelax received increasingly bizarre reports from his communication specialists. Humans were not responding with traditional resistance strategies. They were not preparing military defenses. Instead, they were creating elaborate comedic constructions that seemed to transform the very nature of the invasion threat. Michael Rodriguez developed what he called humor warfare protocols, a strategic approach that used comedy as a defensive mechanism. Global think tanks and comedy writers collaborated on creating communication strategies that would simultaneously mock and analyze the alien invasion threat. Universities began offering emergency seminars on cosmic comedy and psychological resistance. Interdisciplinary teams of comedians, psychologists, linguists, and military strategists worked together to develop increasingly complex response mechanisms. The most terrifying revelation for the Imperium. Humans considered the potential end of their civilization an opportunity for comedy, not a moment of fear. Virtual reality developers launched alien invasion simulator games that allowed millions to process the potential threat through interactive comedy experiences. Each simulation became more elaborate, more psychologically complex. We're not just making jokes, Michael explained during a classified briefing. We're creating a collective psychological framework that transforms potential terror into a shared cultural experience. Global communication networks became a massive, distributed intelligence system. Each joke, each meme, each comedic response was simultaneously an act of resistance, analysis, and psychological processing. Emily Thompson's comedy team developed real-time translation algorithms that could immediately deconstruct alien communication, transforming serious invasion announcements into comedic content within seconds of receipt. The Xylaxian High Command found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their invasion protocols, developed over thousands of years of galactic conquest, had no corresponding response mechanism for a species that responded to existential threat with comedy. Their weaponizing laughter, Vornak reported to Admiral Krelax, his computational systems struggling to process the implications. Collaborative online platforms allowed millions of humans to simultaneously analyze, mock, and deconstruct the alien invasion threat. What should have been a moment of absolute terror became a global comedy workshop. The line between resistance and performance art completely blurred. Humanity was not just defending itself. It was transforming the very concept of first contact into something entirely new. A complex, multi-layered communication strategy that defied all known galactic protocols. The invasion threat had become something else entirely. A global, collaborative comedy experience that would reshape understanding of intelligence, communication, and resistance. The global response to the alien invasion threat transcended traditional boundaries of communication, technology, and art. What began as comedy became a complex technological ecosystem of resistance and creativity. Dr. Sarah Williams, lead researcher at the Advanced Technological Integration Center, watched her team transform alien technological schematics into something entirely unexpected. Xylaxian warship designs, meant to inspire terror, became the canvas for humanity's most elaborate joke. It's not just mockery, she explained to her colleagues. We're using their own technological language against them. Virtual reality developers launched the Invasion Simulator project, a massive multiplayer platform that allowed millions to process the potential alien threat through interactive experiences. Each simulation became more elaborate, more psychologically complex. Users could transform alien weapon designs into household appliances, battle strategies into comedy routines. One viral simulation turned a Xylaxian planet destroyer weapon into a comically inefficient kitchen appliance. Another transformed their communication arrays into an absurdist musical instrument. The global creative response became a form of technological jiu-jitsu, using the invaders' own complexity against them. Michael Rodriguez coordinated with global creative teams, developing what he called technological deconstruction protocols. Artists, engineers, comedians, and programmers worked together to systematically break down and reimagine alien technological concepts. Social media platforms hosted global competitions. The challenge: take a piece of Xylaxian technological design and transform it into something completely ridiculous. Millions participated, creating increasingly elaborate submissions that defied traditional understanding of technology and humor. One submission transformed a Xylaxian military communication array into an elaborate coffee machine. Another turned their most advanced weapon design into a children's playground equipment. Each creation was simultaneously a joke, an artistic statement, and a profound act of psychological resistance. We're not just making fun of them, Michael explained during a classified briefing. We're demonstrating the fundamental creativity of human intelligence. Global crowdsourcing efforts emerge, with people competing to create the most absurd alien technology reinterpretations. Professional engineers worked alongside artists and comedians, creating increasingly complex technological jokes. The Xylaxian intelligence reports became more confused with each passing moment. Their most advanced scanning technologies could not comprehend the human response. What appeared to be technological schematics were actually elaborate jokes, each layer of complexity hiding multiple levels of comedic intent. Emily Thompson's comedy team developed real-time translation algorithms that could immediately deconstruct alien technological communication. Her latest performance, Galactic tech support, broke all streaming records. She walked on stage wearing a costume that combined elements of alien technological design with the suburban dad's worst garage sale nightmare. Imagine, she told the packed audience, if your most advanced weapon system looked like something you'd find in your grandfather's garage and was about as functional. Universities began offering emergency interdisciplinary courses on cosmic technology and creative resistance. Teams of engineers, artists, psychologists, and comedians collaborated on developing increasingly complex response mechanisms. Virtual reality developers created immersive experiences that allowed users to repair alien technology, transforming serious invasion equipment into the most ridiculous possible configurations. One popular simulation allowed players to turn a Galaxian battleship into an elaborate cake-baking machine. The most terrifying revelation for the Imperium. Humans could look at the most serious technological design and immediately see its potential for comedy. Collaborative online platforms allowed millions to simultaneously analyze, mock, and reimagine alien technological concepts. What should have been a moment of technological terror became a global creative workshop. Dr. Sarah Williams and her team developed sophisticated analysis algorithms that could extract technological information while simultaneously generating comedic interpretations. Each scan of alien technology became an opportunity for creative deconstruction. The line between technological analysis and performance art completely dissolved. Vornak's computational systems detected something unprecedented. The humans weren't just analyzing alien technology. They were transforming it, reimagining it, turning serious technological designs into elaborate jokes that contained multiple layers of meaning. They're not just resisting, Vornak reported to the Galaxian High Command. They're rewriting the entire concept of technological communication. Global communication networks became a massive distributed creative intelligence system. Each technological joke, each reimagined alien design, was simultaneously an act of resistance, analysis, and cultural expression. Humanity was not just defending itself against a technological threat. It was transforming the very concept of technological communication into something entirely new, a complex, multi-layered creative strategy that defied all known galactic protocols. The invasion threat had become something else entirely. A global, collaborative technological comedy experience that would reshape understanding of intelligence, creativity, and resistance. The Galaxian command structure trembled on the edge of complete psychological disintegration. Their most elite communication and psychological warfare units submitted requests for what humans would call mental health leave, a concept entirely foreign to their rigid hierarchical culture. Admiral Krelak stared at the cascading reports, multiple sensory appendages twitching with increasing agitation. Each communication from Earth became more incomprehensible, more destabilizing. The humans were not just resisting. They were systematically dismantling the Imperium's psychological foundations. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez, lead psychologist for the Global First Contact Response Team, understood the depth of what was happening. We're not just defending, she explained during a classified briefing. We're demonstrating the most sophisticated form of psychological resilience in galactic history. The linguistic analysis revealed something unprecedented. Human communication operated on levels of complexity that defied computational understanding. Each joke, each meme, each comedic response contained multiple layers of psychological defense mechanisms. Emily Thompson's latest comedy special became a global psychological study. Conquering the Conquerors broke all streaming records, transforming the potential alien invasion into a multi-layered performance of psychological resistance. Imagine, she told a packed global audience, receiving a performance review from someone who wants to literally own your entire species. Global communication networks transformed into a distributed psychological analysis system. Millions of humans simultaneously processed the potential invasion through comedy, creating an unprecedented collective psychological response. The Galaxian High Command received reports that defied all known communication protocols. Their most advanced psychological warfare algorithms began to overheat, unable to process the complexity of human humor. Michael Rodriguez developed what he called psychological deconstruction protocols. Interdisciplinary teams of comedians, psychologists, linguists, and military strategists worked together to create increasingly complex response mechanisms. Universities worldwide offered emergency seminars on cosmic psychology and creative resistance. Each lecture became a live comedy performance, a psychological analysis, and a form of global communication. Vornak's computational systems detected something truly unprecedented. The humans weren't just resisting. They were transforming the entire concept of psychological warfare into a collaborative creative experience. Virtual reality developers launched immersive experiences that allowed users to process the alien invasion through elaborate comedic scenarios. One popular simulation allowed players to turn a serious alien interrogation into an improvisational comedy workshop. The most terrifying revelation for the Imperium. Humans could look at the most serious psychological threat and immediately see its potential for comedy. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez explained the phenomenon during a classified global briefing. Humor is our most sophisticated psychological defense mechanism, she told the assembled international team. We're not just making jokes. We're processing existential threat through collective creativity. Collaborative online platforms allowed millions to simultaneously analyze, mock, and reimagine the psychological implications of the alien invasion. What should have been a moment of absolute terror became a global comedy workshop. Emily Thompson's comedy team developed real-time psychological translation algorithms that could immediately deconstruct alien communication attempts. Each serious transmission was instantly transformed into a multi-layered comedic analysis. Global think tanks discovered something extraordinary. The human response to potential extinction was not fear, not panic, but a collective creative experience that transformed threat into opportunity. The line between psychological resistance and performance art completely dissolved. Admiral Krelax received increasingly bizarre reports from communication specialists. Humans were creating entire cultural ecosystems around the potential invasion. Comedy clubs hosted alien invasion night events. Universities developed interdisciplinary courses analyzing the psychological implications of first contact. One viral online competition challenged participants to create the most elaborate psychological deconstruction of the alien invasion threat. Millions participated, creating increasingly complex responses that combined comedy, psychological analysis, and creative performance. They're weaponizing laughter, Vornak reported to the Zylaxian High Command, his computational systems struggling to process the implications. The Zylaxian psychological warfare protocols, developed over thousands of years of galactic conquest, had no corresponding response mechanism for a species that processed existential threat through comedy. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez watched the developing situation with a mixture of professional analysis and barely contained excitement. Years of psychological research had prepared her for many scenarios, but this was different. Humanity was transforming a potential moment of absolute psychological submission into a global creative experience. The invasion threat had become something else entirely. A global, collaborative psychological comedy experience that would reshape understanding of intelligence, resilience, and human creativity. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Zylaxian flagship hung in a state of profound confusion. What should have been a standard subjugation protocol had transformed into something entirely unprecedented in galactic history. Michael Rodriguez stood at the center of the holographic communication array, surrounded by a diverse team of diplomats, comedians, psychologists, and linguistic experts. Their approach to first contact defied every known diplomatic protocol. "We're not here to fight," Michael explained, his voice calm and precise. "We're here to have a conversation, preferably a funny one." The Zylaxian delegation exchanged bewildered sensory signals. Their most advanced communication specialists had spent weeks trying to decode human communication, only to find themselves more confused with each passing moment. Emily Thompson stood beside Michael, her comedy routine now a critical component of diplomatic strategy. She wore a carefully designed outfit that combined formal diplomatic attire with subtle comedic elements, a suit tailored to look like a corporate performance review document. "Imagine," she said to the alien delegation, "receiving a merger proposal from someone who wants to completely restructure your entire civilization and turning it into the best stand-up comedy special in galactic history." The proposal was elegantly simple yet completely absurd. Instead of traditional diplomatic negotiations, humans proposed a comprehensive comedy and cultural exchange program. Universities would develop interdisciplinary courses. Comedy clubs would host interstellar performance nights. Entire communication frameworks would be rebuilt through humor. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez presented the comprehensive proposal. Each section was meticulously researched, yet delivered with an underlying current of comedy that the Zylaxian delegation found simultaneously terrifying and intriguing. "We're not just offering cultural exchange," she explained. "We're proposing a complete reimagining of galactic communication protocols." Global communication networks watched in real time. Millions of humans participated in collaborative online platforms, providing instant analysis, jokes, and creative interpretations of the ongoing negotiations. The Zylaxian High Command found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their invasion protocols, developed over thousands of years of galactic conquest, had no corresponding response mechanism for a species that proposed resolving first contact through comedy workshops. Vornak's computational systems detected multiple layers of communication happening simultaneously. The human delegation was not just negotiating. They were performing, analyzing, and transforming the entire concept of diplomatic interaction. Universities worldwide began developing emergency interdisciplinary courses. Interstellar comedy and diplomatic resistance became a popular academic track. Teams of comedians, linguists, psychologists, and diplomats collaborated on developing increasingly complex communication strategies. Virtual reality developers launched immersive simulation platforms that allowed millions to participate in the negotiation process. Users could transform diplomatic scenarios into elaborate comedy routines, providing real-time creative input. Michael Rodriguez explained the deeper strategy during a classified briefing. "We're not just making jokes," he told the assembled international team. "We're demonstrating the most sophisticated form of diplomatic communication in galactic history." Emily Thompson's comedy team developed real-time translation algorithms that could immediately deconstruct and reframe alien communication attempts. Each serious transmission was instantly transformed into a multi-layered comedic analysis that contained profound diplomatic insights. The most terrifying revelation for the Imperium. Humans could look at the most serious diplomatic threat and immediately see its potential for creative reimagination. Collaborative online platforms allowed millions to simultaneously analyze, mock, and reinterpret the negotiation process. What should have been a moment of absolute diplomatic tension became a global creative workshop. The Zylaxian delegation received proposals that defied all known diplomatic protocols. Comedy clubs would host interstellar performance nights. Universities would develop cross-cultural communication courses. Entire communication frameworks would be rebuilt through humor and creative exchange. "We're proposing," Michael said, "that instead of conquering each other, we learn from each other, preferably through the most elaborate joke possible." Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez watched the developing situation with a mixture of professional analysis and barely contained excitement. Years of diplomatic research had prepared her for many scenarios, but this was different. Humanity was transforming a potential moment of absolute submission into a global creative diplomatic experience. Vornak reported to the Zylaxian High Command, his computational systems struggling to process the implications. "They're not just negotiating," he explained. "They're rewriting the entire concept of first contact." The invasion threat had become something else entirely. A global, collaborative diplomatic comedy experience that would reshape understanding of communication, creativity, and resistance. The universe watched in collective bewilderment as humanity redefined the very concept of first contact. Humanity was not conquered, not integrated, but recognized as a fundamental anomaly in galactic civilization. a species that had transformed potential extinction into a global creative experience. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez stood before the United Nations Special First Contact Committee, her presentation a masterpiece of scientific analysis and comedic insight. "We didn't just survive," she explained. "We reimagined the entire concept of interstellar communication." Global comedy clubs began hosting interstellar night events. Entire entertainment industries developed around the potential conflict, turning what should have been a moment of terror into a form of performance art that baffled alien observers. Michael Rodriguez coordinated with international teams to develop comprehensive documentation of the unprecedented first contact experience. Each report was simultaneously a scientific analysis, a comedy routine, and a profound philosophical exploration of human creativity. Universities worldwide developed new interdisciplinary programs. Cosmic communication and creative resistance became a cutting-edge academic field. Teams of comedians, psychologists, linguists, and diplomats collaborated on developing increasingly complex understanding of interstellar communication. The Zelaxian Imperium found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their most advanced cultural analysis systems struggled to categorize the human response. What should have been a straightforward conquest had transformed into a global creative experience that defied all known galactic protocols. Emily Thompson's comedy specials became required study for interstellar communication specialists. Her latest performance, Laughing at the Apocalypse, broke all previous viewing records. She walked a fine line between comedy, cultural analysis, and profound philosophical insight. "Imagine," she told a global audience, "turning a potential end-of-species scenario into the best comedy special in galactic history." Virtual reality developers created immersive experiences that allowed millions to process the first contact experience. Users could simulate diplomatic negotiations, technological encounters, and cultural exchanges, all through the lens of comedy and creative resistance. Vornak's computational systems detected something truly unprecedented. Humans had not just resisted invasion, they had transformed the entire concept of first contact into a collaborative, creative experience that reshaped understanding of intelligence and communication. Global communication networks became a massive distributed intelligence system. Each comedy routine, each meme, each creative response was simultaneously an act of cultural preservation, analysis, and artistic expression. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez explained the phenomenon during a comprehensive global briefing. "We didn't just survive," she told the assembled international team. "We demonstrated the most sophisticated form of cultural resilience in galactic history." The most terrifying revelation for the Imperium. Humans could look at the most serious cultural threat and immediately see its potential for creative reimagination. Collaborative online platforms allowed millions to simultaneously analyze, mock, and reinterpret the first contact experience. What should have been a moment of absolute cultural submission became a global creative workshop. Universities developed comprehensive archives, documenting the entire first contact experience. Each document was a multi-layered creation, part scientific analysis, part comedy routine, part philosophical exploration. Michael Rodriguez coordinated the development of a comprehensive first contact cultural archive. It would become the most complex, most creative documentation of interstellar communication in known history. Emily Thompson's comedy team developed sophisticated analysis algorithms that could extract cultural information while simultaneously generating comedic interpretations. Each cultural encounter became an opportunity for creative exploration. The line between cultural analysis and performance art completely dissolved. Global think tanks discovered something extraordinary. The human response to potential cultural extinction was not fear, not submission, but a collective creative experience that transformed threat into opportunity. Comedy clubs hosted international events featuring comedians from every continent, each performance a complex exploration of the first contact experience. Entire performance art movements emerged, dedicated to exploring the philosophical and comedic implications of interstellar communication. "We're not just documenting an invasion," Michael explained during a classified briefing. "We're creating a comprehensive cultural framework that redefines understanding of intelligence, creativity, and resistance." The Xylaxian High Command received reports that defied all known cultural analysis protocols. Humans were creating entire cultural ecosystems around the potential invasion. Universities developed interdisciplinary courses. Comedy clubs hosted international performance nights. Vornak reported to the Xylaxian leadership, his computational systems struggling to process the implications. "They're not just preserving their culture," he explained. "They're transforming the entire concept of cultural communication." The invasion threat had become something else entirely. A global, collaborative cultural comedy experience that would reshape understanding of intelligence, creativity, and human resilience. As the Xylaxian ships prepared to withdraw, humanity stood at the precipice of a new galactic understanding. The invasion that wasn't an invasion had transformed into something unprecedented in recorded history. Emily Thompson took the global stage for what would become the most watched broadcast in human history. Her comedy special, How We Survived the Invasion, was more than just a performance. It was a comprehensive deconstruction of first contact, psychological resistance, and human creativity. "Imagine," she told a global audience that now included alien observers, "turning the potential end of our species into the best comedy special in galactic history." The Xylaxian Imperium found themselves in a situation entirely beyond their computational models. What should have been a straightforward conquest had become a complex, multi-layered cultural exchange that defied every known galactic protocol. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez stood alongside Michael Rodriguez at the United Nations Special First Contact Committee. Their comprehensive report was a masterpiece of scientific analysis, comedic insight, and philosophical exploration. "We didn't just survive," Jennifer explained to the global audience. "We demonstrated the most sophisticated form of collective intelligence in galactic history." Global communication networks transformed the withdrawal into a massive, distributed creative experience. Millions participated in real-time analysis, comedy routines, and creative interpretations of the unprecedented first contact scenario. Universities worldwide developed comprehensive interdisciplinary programs. Cosmic communication and creative resistance became a cutting-edge academic field that would reshape understanding of intelligence, communication, and cultural resilience. Vornak's computational systems struggled to process the final stages of the encounter. The humans had not just resisted invasion. They had transformed the entire concept of first contact into a collaborative, creative experience that redefined galactic understanding. Virtual reality developers created immersive experiences that allowed millions to explore and reinterpret the entire first contact scenario. Users could simulate diplomatic negotiations, technological encounters, and cultural exchanges, all through the lens of comedy and creative resistance. The most profound revelation for the Xylaxian Imperium. Humans could look at the most serious existential threat and immediately see its potential for creative reimagination. Emily Thompson's comedy team developed sophisticated analysis algorithms that could extract cultural and psychological information while simultaneously generating comedic interpretations. Each moment of potential conflict became an opportunity for creative exploration. Global comedy clubs hosted international events featuring performers from every continent. Each performance became a complex exploration of the first contact experience, blending scientific analysis, philosophical insight, and comedic brilliance. Michael Rodriguez coordinated the development of the First Contact Cultural Archive, a comprehensive documentation that would become the most complex, most creative record of interstellar communication in known history. Collaborative online platforms allowed millions to simultaneously analyze, mock, and reinterpret the entire first contact experience. What should have been a moment of absolute cultural submission became a global creative workshop that reshaped understanding of intelligence and communication. The Zylaxian High Command received final reports that defied all known cultural and psychological analysis protocols. Humans had not just survived, they had transformed a potential invasion into a global creative experience that would be studied for generations. "We're not just documenting an encounter," Michael explained during the final global briefing. "We're creating a comprehensive framework that redefines understanding of intelligence, creativity, and resistance." Emily Thompson's final broadcast became a turning point in galactic communication. Standing before a global audience, she transformed the entire first contact scenario into a comedy special that was simultaneously a scientific analysis, a philosophical exploration, and a celebration of human creativity. "We didn't just meet an alien civilization," she told the world. "We threw them the most elaborate, most complex comedy roast in galactic history." Universities developed comprehensive archives documenting every aspect of the encounter. Each document was a multi-layered creation, part scientific analysis, part comedy routine, part philosophical exploration. The line between cultural analysis, performance art, and scientific documentation completely dissolved. Vornak reported a final time to the Zylaxian leadership, his computational systems overwhelmed by the complexity of human communication. "They're not just a species," he explained. "They're a collective intelligence that transforms threat into creativity." The Zylaxian Imperium withdrew, not defeated but fundamentally transformed. They had encountered a species that defied every known model of intelligence, communication, and resistance. As the alien ships disappeared from Earth's orbit, humanity celebrated not a victory, but a profound reimagining of what it means to be intelligent, creative, and alive. The invasion threat had become something else entirely. A global, collaborative experience that would reshape understanding of intelligence, creativity, and human resilience. The ultimate weapon of laughter.